Hey guys, this is James at Bruckelmyer Brothers. Today I'll be showing you how I made these two cabinet doors. Yeah, so right now we're just sending our style material through. We're ripping it all to a 32nd, bigger than what we need. Here we're using the table saw and we have our power feeder hooked up to it so that it automatically feeds our boards through, keeping them tight to the fence, tight to the table, and giving us the cleanest grip possible. All of our painted doors will get maple. It's very predictable and easy to work with. Predictable meaning that it's not going to absorb moisture. It's not going to move on you. The density of the wood is really nice to work with. It's right in between being a really hardwood or a hardwood and a softwood. Good organization starts here from the beginning. We're always trying to label our pieces as we cut them, just so once we have all of our pieces cut, they're not disorganized. Right now I'm just cutting my stiles and rails to length off of the pieces that I milled up earlier this morning. Just 4 bigger cabinet doors with 2 mid rails in them. They're making up the doors for the mudroom cabinets that we're building. And safety first. I'm cutting about 3 inches off of every board before cutting it to final length. It's just when you're milling things, using a shaper, a planer, sander. Normally the last 3 or so inches of a board will get sniped by the machine. We call it a snipe just because it's a little chunk normally at the end of wood. Throughout the whole process, we're trying our hardest to use the nicest material that we can. Next we're gonna take our rails over to the shaper and we're gonna cope our rails. Yeah, so coping our door rails right now, we're essentially doing the inverse of what we did when we put the stiles on there. Right now we're just getting our coping sled set up to cut our rails for these cabinet doors. This is the way that we do all of our joinery on most of our cabinet doors. Gives a really strong joint in the corners, and then it also allows for movement in the doors. We set up our coping sled to just cut our rail. It puts the little tenon on our rails so that they'll join in the corners. Anything that's not flush we'll clean up with the time saver later on once the doors are assembled. With that shaper, it leaves little pieces of wood that if we didn't address them right now, they'd get in the way of our joints in the corner. So right now we're just taking a knife and sandpaper, cleaning up our cuts that we just made so that the corners go together seamlessly. From there, I just need to sand my doors, sand my panels, and then we can begin assembling all the doors on our assembly table. So these are just our spacer balls that we use. They allow the panel to not go too far into the rails or into the stiles. And they also just allow for movement. They have a little bit of give to them. So if over time the door does swell, move around, these bumpers solve that issue. But if you don't do this, you're gonna be mad at yourself about 5 steps from now. There have been people in this shop way before us that had a lot of time to figure out the correct way to do things. And all we can do is try and do the same as they did. Now I just gotta go grab panels, sand my panels, and then I can start assembling. For our painted doors, we use MDF for our panel. We'll leave the factory finish that's on the MDF on one side. That's the side that's gonna be the face of our door. We put the correct profile on there, and then just to seal it up and make it less porous, we go through and we'll spray the edge with CV on the back, and then we'll also do the whole face. We'll coat it with CV before our 2 coats of paint. This seals up the wood, makes it a lot less porous, makes the paint go on smoother. I'm scuffing, sanding the CV with 320. This is gonna smooth it up, but also create a rough enough surface where the next layer of paint's gonna wanna firmly grab onto it. And then we're also sanding it because when we sprayed these panels with CV, they swell up a little bit, so they're not gonna wanna fit perfectly into the groove that's on my doors. Sanding them out, give them a better chance to fit. And this will be the last time that you can sand this profile, because once the door is assembled, it is a lot harder to sand the profile. We're not sanding into the profile at all, we're just flattening out that layer of CV, making it smooth. And then same thing with the face. Once we assemble the door, it's a lot harder to scuff the inside edges of the face of the panel. So as long as we scuff it right now, you should not have to scuff it again. And now I got 14 panels to do. One down. This is where you hit the time lapse. Sounds boring, but I try and become a machine while I'm doing this, doing every door, same amount of sanding strokes and everything. For some things, you kind of have to be robotic with it. Yeah, so everything's been sanded down, cleaned up. We're gonna take it over to our assembly table. This table has 4 pneumatic clamps on it that apply pressure down into this square corner. Is really convenient for building doors. Makes getting them square a lot easier. Oh, we want our panels to be floating in there, not getting glue on them so that they're fixed. Blake, could I see that panel from you? Sweet. That was a good catch, Blake. Cool. We're gonna slowly apply clamping pressure to our doors. You can see that it's pushing our doors square into that corner. Now we're just checking to make sure there's no gaps up against our frame right here. We're looking at all of our gaps to our calls that we've got in here. Everything's looking pretty good. Just making sure our door is laying flat against the table. We're gonna tap all of our corners. Once we've tapped all of our corners, we're gonna check our panel reveal. We're looking for a 5/16 reveal around our whole door. If it needs any adjustment right now, we can tap our panels to where they need to be. This door is looking pretty good. We'll wipe off any glue, excess glue that we had come out. And then using 5/8 23 gauge pins, we're gonna pin the stick part of our rails into our stiles. And this is on the back of the door, so none of these pinholes will be seen. We'll fill them and sand them for finish. Once you get your rails pinned, you can undo your clamps. Then we're just gonna flip the door over, re-clamp it, and re-tap our corners down. This just is making sure that our door is square, flat, and straight. Same thing here. Looking for all my reveals against the frame. I'm gonna tap my corners, making sure that we're tight to our table. And yeah, wipe off our excess glue. And that's assembling one of our doors using our assembly table in the shop. 54 and 16th light. Right now we're just doing a layout for our panels and mid rails. Doing it all now, making sure that when we get glue on these, we don't give the glue time to set up before we're ready for it too. Money. Oakley dokley, Blake. I'm all backwards right now. Going up with her. Cool beans. Sweet. Other side. Good? Yeah, go for it. Awesome possum, dude. Neato, gang. You checking for square? Don't check too hard. Yeah, 44 and 15 heavy. Pretty perfect, dude.